Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
I gripped the edge of the kitchen counter, my knuckles white against the polished wood, as the voices in the next room grated against my ears. "Nancy, you know we're family," Edison's mother, Linda, said, her voice a mixture of false sweetness and undeniable entitlement. "It's not too much to ask, is it? Just a little extra to help your brother-in-law." I didn't reply. My stomach twisted as I counted the bills in my wallet for the third time that week. Rent, groceries, utilities, I had accounted for everything down to the last cent. There wasn't room for a little extra. Edison sat sprawled on the couch, his legs stretched out, flipping through his phone without a care in the world. Unemployed for over a year, he acted as if his lack of a job was a minor inconvenience rather than a crushing burden I had to shoulder alone. "Don't be ungrateful," his brother, Alan, chimed in, his arms crossed as he leaned against the doorframe. "You should be happy to support your husband's family." "Happy?" I swallowed back the bitter laugh bubbling in my throat. For years, I had paid for everything, our apartment, our bills, even Edison's hobbies, while he sat at home making empty promises about finding work. Meanwhile, his family treated me like an ATM. Edison finally looked up from his phone. "Nancy, don't make a fuss. Just give them the money." I turned to him, disbelief tightening my throat. "You're not even working, Edison. You can't keep demanding money from me like this." His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He never had to. His mother and brother did the dirty work for him. "Don't act like you're the only one struggling," Linda snapped. "Edison is your husband. He's the man of the house. You should be grateful you have him." That was the last straw. I let out a sharp breath, my chest burning with frustration. "You want money, Linda?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. "Why don't you ask your son to get a job instead of sitting around all day?" A thick silence settled over the room. Edison's face darkened. "Watch your mouth, Nancy." "Or what?" My hands shook, but I refused to back down. "You'll finally step up and contribute, or maybe you'll actually leave, like you've been threatening to for months." The moment the words left my lips, I saw a flicker of something in Edison's eyes. Surprise, maybe even a little fear. I had always been the compliant wife, the one who worked, paid, and sacrificed without protest. This was new. This was different. Linda scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous. Edison isn't going anywhere." That's what she thought. I clenched my fists, forcing a breath through my nose. I couldn't keep living like this. I needed to get out. I needed a plan. And for the first time in years, I was ready to take control of my own life. That night, as Edison snored beside me, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. My chest felt heavy with years of exhaustion. But for the first time, my thoughts carried a glimmer of something I hadn't felt in a long time: determination. I needed to leave. For years, I had let guilt, obligation, and fear keep me in this suffocating life. But tonight, as I lay in the dark, I knew. If I didn't leave now, I never would. Silently, I reached for my phone and opened my banking app. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through the transactions. The realization hit me like a punch to the stomach. Between bills and Edison's endless demands, my savings were pitiful. But not empty. I had managed to tuck away a small amount in a separate account, just in case. Not much, but enough to be my first step toward freedom. I turned onto my side, my pulse hammering. Edison stirred but didn't wake. Carefully, I slid out of bed, grabbing my robe as I padded into the kitchen. Sitting at the table, I pulled out a notebook and began scribbling a plan. 1. Find a place to live. 2. Open a new bank account. 3. Gather important documents. 4. Leave before he realizes. I bit my lip. I needed a house. A place where I could start over, far from Edison and his family. But how? A message notification lit up my phone screen. It was from my mother. "Mom, are you okay, sweetheart? I had a bad feeling today." I hesitated before replying. "Me, I need to get out, Mom. I can't do this anymore." Seconds later, my phone buzzed. I answered in a whisper. "Come home, Nancy," she pleaded. "We'll help you." "No," I murmured, gripping the phone tighter. "I need my own place. If I run to you, Edison will find me. He'll try to drag me back." My mother sighed. "Then let us help you buy a house, somewhere safe." Tears welled in my eyes. After years of struggling alone, the thought of someone supporting me felt foreign. but I couldn't refuse. Okay, I whispered. The next morning, I sat across from a real estate agent, my heart thudding as she slid a folder toward me. This one just went on the market. It's outside the city, private and within your budget. I flipped through the pictures. It wasn't a mansion, but it was mine. I'll take it, I said, sealing my fate with a single sentence. Now all I had to do was leave before Edison saw it coming. I had exactly 2 days before Edison noticed something was wrong. 2 days to disappear from his life before he could try to stop me. I moved with calculated precision, stuffing important documents, my passport, birth certificate, and bank details into a small bag. I packed only what I needed, a few changes of clothes, my laptop, and the last remnants of my savings. The rest of my things could be replaced. My freedom, however, could not. Edison was out with his brother, most likely drinking on my dime, boasting about being the man of the house while I covered the bills. His mother had called me that morning, demanding more money for her expenses, claiming she was family and I owed her. I smiled as I listened to her rant. Soon, she would realize I owed them nothing. By the time evening arrived, the house felt eerie in its silence. I took one last look at the space I had suffered in for so long. The suffocating walls. The furniture I had paid for but never felt comfortable in. The kitchen where I had cooked endless meals while Edison and his family belittled me. Never again. I picked up my bag, my heart pounding so loudly I swore the neighbors could hear it. My hands trembled, but my steps did not. I walked out the door, locking it behind me for the last time. The cab was waiting. I climbed in, keeping my eyes on the rearview mirror, half expecting Edison to come charging after me. But the street remained empty. "Where to?" the driver asked. I gave him the address of my new home, my home. As the city lights faded in the distance, a weight lifted from my chest. The chains that had bound me for years had finally shattered. Hours later, I arrived. The house was small but perfect. The air smelled different here, clean, untainted by misery. I unlocked the door, stepping inside with a deep breath. No insults, no demands, just silence. And for the first time in years, I smiled. Tomorrow, Edison would wake up to an empty house. Tomorrow, he would realize he had lost me forever. The morning sun streamed through the window, illuminating my new home in golden light. No shouting, no demands, just the quiet hum of birds outside. For the first time in years, I woke up without the crushing weight of Edison's presence. No frantic rush to check my bank account. No anxiety over his mother's next demand. Just peace. I stretched, savoring the feeling. In my tiny kitchen, I made myself a cup of coffee, not the cheap kind Edison always insisted on, but the rich, expensive blend I had once loved. The first sip tasted like victory. A knock at the door startled me. My heart pounded, but when I opened it, relief washed over me. "Mom, Dad." I gasped, barely holding back tears. My mother pulled me into a tight hug, her hands shaking. "You really did it," she whispered. "You finally left him." My father's eyes were filled with pride. "You look happier already, Nancy. This is where you belong." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I am free." We sat together at my small dining table, laughing over breakfast, something I hadn't done in years. No one insulted me. No one demanded anything. And for the first time in my life, I truly felt alive. The knock came just as I was pouring tea. A slow, deliberate pounding. My stomach twisted. I knew that rhythm. I had lived with it for years. I opened the door, and there they stood. Edison, his mother, and his brother, smirking like they owned the place. "We're moving in," Edison declared, stepping forward. I blocked the doorway. "You're not." My voice was steady, firm. His mother scoffed. "Don't be foolish, Nancy. You owe us." "Owe you?" I let out a sharp laugh. "I carried you all for years, and now I owe you nothing." Edison's smirk vanished. His eyes darkened. Then, suddenly, crash, he slammed a brick into my window, shattering the glass. I stumbled back as he advanced, but I was already dialing. "You just made this easy," I said, my voice calm as the operator answered. Minutes later, flashing lights illuminated my yard. Officers dragged a furious Edison away as his mother wailed. His brother stood frozen pale. As the chaos faded, I inhaled deeply. The air smelled different, lighter. My mother touched my shoulder. "It's really over." I smiled. Yes, and now my life truly begins.
Friends, What do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.